SUV crested the final rise, its tires crunching on immaculate imported gravel. The lights of the rental house, a modernist fortress of glass and timber, exploded into view, reflecting brilliantly off the surface of the vast, isolated body of water below. Alex killed the engine, letting the silence of the wilderness rush in. He was the host, the architect of this weekend, his success radiating from his tailored jacket and expensive watch. Beside him, Ryan, bulkier and louder, took a long swig from a bottle of expensive whiskey. Sam, the sharpest and most cynical of the trio, checked his phone, finding the signal immediately dead. "Welcome to the middle of nowhere," Alex announced, his voice smooth and carrying a false warmth. "The perfect backdrop for our little pilgrimage of amends." The lake was immense, stretching into the blue-black horizon. Its surface was perfectly still, reflecting the dark, heavy pine forest that encircled it. It possessed a chilling beauty, its depth hidden beneath the obsidian calm of the water. Even under the night sky, the lake felt cold, vast, and utterly unforgiving. They were waiting for their fourth guest, Ethan. Ethan arrived 20 minutes later, driving a modest, dust-covered sedan. He was visibly nervous, moving with the hesitant gait of someone expecting a trap. Ethan was the fourth member of their old high school clique, the quiet, shy boy whom Alex, Ryan, and Sam had systematically marginalized and used as the butt of their cruelest jokes for years. This weekend, Alex had promised a genuine apology, a reconciliation years overdue. Ethan, despite the lingering pain of the past, was hopeful for real friendship. "Ethan, get out of that death trap and come in!" Ryan bellowed, forcing a loud, backslapping greeting. Ethan offered a tentative smile, climbing out of his car. "Hey, thanks for inviting me. The drive was long." "We know," Sam said, without looking up, his tone flat. "But this view makes it worth it, right? Absolute peace." They led Ethan into the house. The interior was sleek and modern, all sharp angles and automated lighting. Alex immediately handed Ethan a tall glass of whiskey. "To burying the hatchet," Alex declared, raising his own glass, his eyes bright with an unsettling enthusiasm. They settled around the huge central granite fireplace. The fire crackled brightly, but the warmth struggled to fill the massive room. The drinking began, and the facade started to peel away. "Remember that time Ethan thought he aced the physics test, but we replaced his answers with sonnets?" Ryan roared, throwing his head back, his laughter loud and genuinely cruel. Ethan's tentative smile froze. He looked at Alex, searching for the promised intervention, the apology. "Ryan," Alex chided softly, but his eyes were laughing. "Be nice. We're trying to heal here. But seriously, Ethan, you always made it too easy." The subtle mockery was a cold, precise attack, immediately dismantling Ethan's fragile hope. The air in the luxury rental grew heavy, poisoned not by the silence of the woods, but by the relentless, quiet cruelty of the hosts. The night had only just begun. The subtle mockery around the fireplace had escalated into outright verbal assault by late afternoon. The forced reconciliation had dissolved, leaving behind the bitter, familiar taste of their contempt. To escape the suffocating atmosphere of the house, Alex proposed a boat trip. "Perfect, fresh air," Alex declared, grabbing the keys to the motorized skiff. "We need to clear our heads before we can get back to this heavy apology business." They boarded the small motorboat, Alex steering, Ryan and Sam laughing and passing the whiskey. Ethan sat rigid in the bow, the last shreds of his hope crumbling with every cruel joke directed his way. The lake was even more immense from the water level, its dark surface smooth and utterly silent. The air was frigid, the light dimming fast beneath heavy cloud cover. Alex drove the boat directly to the center of the lake, far from any shoreline markers or buoys. The deepest, coldest section. He finally cut the engine. The resulting silence was instant, heavy, and profound. The true purpose of the outing was immediately revealed. "All right, Ethan," Sam said, leaning forward, his voice a low, vicious sneer. "Let's cut the crap. You really thought we drove 7 hours to say sorry for high school? You never got the joke, did you?" Ryan roared with laughter, slamming his fist on the side of the boat. "The joke is, you still the same sad little target, Ethan. You took the invite. You actually thought we wanted to be your friends." Ethan shrank back, the betrayal a cold knife twisting in his gut. His hands gripped the plastic seat with desperate force. "Why, Alex? You promised—" "I promised a trip?" Alex interrupted, his voice sharp and suddenly devoid of all warmth. He stood up, towering over Ethan, and part of the ritual is getting rid of the excess baggage. Before Ethan could react, Alex delivered a hard, powerful shove. Ethan yelled, a sharp sound of shock and panic, as he tumbled over the low gunwale. He hit the freezing water with a tremendous, suffocating splash. The cold was immediate and paralyzing, shocking the breath from his lungs. The water was dense, black, and felt impossibly deep. Ethan suffused instantly, thrashing wildly. I can't swim well," Ethan choked out, his voice already weak and desperate, swallowed quickly by the vast water. "Help me, please, I'm going under." Alex, Ryan, and Sam didn't move. They stood over the side of the skiff, looking down at his terrified, flailing form. Their faces split in wide, triumphant smiles. Their laughter was loud, sharp, and genuinely cruel, echoing across the vast water. "Swim it off, Ethan," Ryan yelled, hoisting the anchor. "You need to toughen up. We'll see you at the shore, unless you think." Alex ripped the engine cord. The motor roared to life, and the boat pivoted violently. The three friends sped away, leaving Ethan alone in the immense, freezing, indifferent black water. The wake from the boat hit him immediately, dragging him under the surface. He surfaced once more, coughing and screaming, watching the boat's receding lights vanish into the gathering dusk. The lights of the modern rental house blazed across the dark lawn, creating an island of false security against the wilderness. Alex, Ryan, and Sam were deep into their celebration, the stereo volume loud, the whiskey flowing freely. They had convinced themselves that Ethan, terrified but alive, had either swum the half-mile to the shore and was now shivering his way back to the city in shame, or was currently huddled in a police station filing a futile report. Either way, he was gone. "To the idiot who actually fell for the apology trip," Ryan yelled, raising his glass. Sam laughed, though his eyes kept darting toward the black expanse of the lake visible through the immense glass walls. The hours passed, and the initial high of their cruelty began to fade, replaced by a subtle, creeping unease. The expensive air filtration system seemed to be struggling. The air inside the luxury house grew heavy and damp, the warmth from the fireplace struggling against a pervasive, unnatural chill that settled deep in the corners of the room. The smell came next. It was a dense, sickening odor, the unmistakable stench of stagnant pond water mixed with rotting silts and cold, decaying algae. It filled the vast living room, overwhelming the expensive candles and the whiskey. "Did someone leave a window open?" Alex muttered, his face wrinkling in disgust. "The lake smells like a sewer." Sam stood up, moving toward the vast glass wall overlooking the deck. He pressed his hand against the glass. "No, the glass is freezing. This smell is coming from inside." The music was loud, masking the subtle sounds of the woods. But suddenly, a sound cut through the bass line. A sound that shouldn't exist inside a $1 million rental. They heard it clearly, coming from the wooden deck outside the back door. Wet, heavy, slopping footsteps. Slap, slap, slap. The sound was slow, deliberate, and impossibly loud given the quality of the construction. It was the sound of something immense and waterlogged, pulling itself across the smooth, dry planks of the expensive hardwood deck. The sound was moving toward the rear entrance, the mudroom door. Alex snapped the music off. The sudden silence was deafening, amplifying the terrifying sound now mere feet away. Slap, slap, slap. The footsteps stopped, directly outside the heavily bolted mudroom door. The three men froze, their bravado evaporated, whiskey bottles forgotten. They stared at the dark wood of the door, their breath shallow and rapid. The latch slowly began to turn. It rotated with agonizing slowness, accompanied by the metallic scrape of the deadbolt straining against the lock mechanism. The turning was powerful, determined, and utterly impossible from the outside without a key. They knew, with a certainty that chilled them far deeper than the house's unnatural cold, that their victim had returned, but not as the person they had abandoned. The latch turned with a final, protesting click. The heavy back door did not swing open. It was shoved inward with immense sudden force, slamming against the adjacent wall. Standing, framed in the ruined doorway, was Ethan. He was utterly, completely soaking wet. His cheap clothes, a thin sweater and jeans were plastered to his frame, heavy with water that dripped instantly onto the polished floor. His hair was slicked back, matted with mud and silt, and his skin was unnaturally pale, almost translucent, with a frightening bloated quality that made his features look stretched and wrong. A rapidly spreading puddle of dark, muddy lake water formed around his work boots, mixing with the dust and clean floor. The strong, sickening smell of stagnant silt and cold decay intensified, washing over the three men like a wave. "Ethan?" Alex whispered, his voice sounding thin and panicked in the sudden silence. What the hell happened?" Ryan and Sam stared, the shock temporarily displacing their fear. They had left him miles out in the deepest part of the lake, in freezing water. It was an impossibility. Ethan did not answer. He did not move immediately. He merely stood there, dripping, his dark, wide eyes fixed on his former friends. Then slowly, deliberately, a smile spread across his pale, stretched face. It was a smile that was fundamentally wrong. It was too wide, too slow, and terrifyingly wet. Water, dark, stagnant water, oozed from the corners of his unnaturally stretched lips and dripped from his chin. The smile didn't convey relief or anger. It conveyed a quiet, profound, and utterly cold satisfaction. I think we owe you an apology, man," Ryan stammered, attempting to revert to the false bravado that had just cost him his composure. Ethan walked past them. He moved with a strange, heavy, deliberate gait, his soaking clothes slapping softly against his legs. He wasn't running or attacking. He was simply entering his domain. He walked directly into the sleek, modern kitchen, leaving a thick, black trail of muddy lake water on the expensive hardwood deck. The temperature in the house dropped instantly and drastically. It wasn't the natural chill of the night air. It was a profound, unnatural cold that seemed to emanate directly from Ethan's waterlogged presence, freezing the warmth from the room and causing the remaining whiskey in the glasses to suddenly steam faintly. Alex scrambled backward, fear overriding his arrogance. "He shouldn't be here. He can't be here."
Sam, recovering slightly, grabbed a heavy brass poker from the fireplace hearth. "Ethan, stop! Whatever this is, we can talk!" Ethan turned slowly in the center of the kitchen, his entire being radiating the cold, immense depth of the lake. He finally spoke, but the voice was not his. It was a distorted, gurgling sound, the noise of 100 gallons of stagnant water being violently forced through constricted lungs. "You promised," the terrible voice gurgled, the sound echoing unnaturally off the high ceilings. "You promised friendship." Ethan, the waterlogged monster, stood dripping in the center of the kitchen. Alex and Sam were frozen, unable to process the impossible return or the chilling reality of the voice that spoke through their drowned victim. Ryan was the first to break. He let out a strange, wet cough, a deep, resonant sound that felt heavy in his chest. He clutched his throat, his face instantly contorting in pain and confusion. "My chest," Ryan choked out, staggering backward, his hands desperately grabbing for the air, trying to anchor himself. The terrifying speed of the physical retribution was immediate. Ryan fell violently to his knees, his expensive clothes instantly soaked, not by the water dripping from Ethan, but by water erupting from inside his own body. He began to vomit. It wasn't simple bile, it was gallons of clear, freezing lake water. The water surged from his mouth and nose in massive, continuous streams, flooding the expensive rug beneath him. His body convulsed violently, unable to stop the impossible internal torrent. He was drowning while standing on dry land in the center of the luxury living room. Alex and Sam screamed, pure, raw sounds of disbelief and visceral horror. They watched, paralyzed, as their friend drowned in the impossible fluid being forced from his own drowned victim. The water kept coming. It poured from Ryan in relentless, suffocating streams, mixing with the muddy trail Ethan had left. Ryan thrashed, his hands clawing uselessly at his own throat, trying to stop the terrible, endless flood that consumed his breath. his eyes wide with the final, absolute terror of suffocation rolled back in their sockets. Ethan watched the agonizing scene from the kitchen, the sickening, gurgling sound in his throat intensifying, matching the wet horror unfolding in the living room. His terrifying wide smile remained fixed, communicating the absolute cold vengeance of the lake. Ryan's convulsions slowed, his body weakened by the internal assault. With a final weak spasm, the last stream of water gushed from his mouth and nose. His body tipped sideways, falling heavily into the pool of clean, clear lake water that his own body had expelled. He lay motionless. His eyes were still wide open, fixed on the ceiling, filled with the murky, cold terror of the deep. The silence returned, broken only by the sound of water slowly draining into the rug. Ryan was dead, consumed and conquered by the very element that had claimed Ethan. Alex and Sam stood trembling, their faces slick with sweat and tears, staring at the inert body of their friend and the chilling waterlogged monster in the kitchen. The collapse of Ryan was the breaking point. Alex and Sam stared at the soaking carpet and the inert body, the pool of clean water slowly seeping into the luxury rug. The chilling, wet laughter of the waterlogged Ethan echoed softly from the kitchen. Sam, the most cynical and sharpest of the group, broke first. He didn't scream or challenge, he ran. Driven by raw, animalistic survival, he bolted across the living room and toward the nearest possible sanctuary, the massive master bathroom. "No! No! No!" Sam yelled, scrambling inside the bathroom suite. He didn't look back at Ethan. He slammed the heavy door shut, twisting the interior bolt and engaging the high-security latch, hoping that the thick wood and reinforced frame could hold back the impossible.
Alex remained rooted in the living room, watching the bathroom door, paralyzed as Ethan slowly, deliberately began to walk toward the sound of the escape. Inside the locked bathroom, Sam leaned against the door, hyperventilating. He was safe for a second. He was in a clean, dry, marble-lined space. Then the water came for him. The heavy, brushed steel faucets, the sink, the shower, and the immense soaking tub all instantly and violently turned on, not with a smooth turn of the handle, but with a terrifying, mechanical jerk. They blasted water at full, tremendous pressure. The sound was deafening, amplified by the tiled room. Sam screamed, rushing to turn the handles, but they were jammed, static, spitting out massive volumes of freezing water. The drain, designed to handle the capacity of the enormous tub, clogged instantly. The water began to rise, unnaturally fast. It didn't just pool, it surged, consuming the marble floor in seconds. Sam scrambled onto the counter, his eyes fixed in horror on the rising water line. It defied gravity and capacity. The small, enclosed room was filling like a catastrophic aquarium. The water reached his ankles, his knees, then his waist. The pressure was intense, fighting his every movement. Sam clawed at the ceiling, his breath tearing in his throat as the frigid water consumed his chest. He was trapped in a glass box of water, the lake's vengeance now manifesting inside his sanctuary. The water reached the ceiling. Sam was slammed upward, his body crushed against the cold, smooth marble above. His frantic, muffled screams, thick and distorted by the water filling his throat, were barely audible through the thick wooden door. He thrashed for a terrible, prolonged moment against the ceiling, struggling to find air where only cold, clear lake water remained. Outside, Alex heard the muffled, desperate sounds of drowning through the door, the final, gurgling struggle against the immense, impossible pressure. The sounds lasted only seconds. Then, the final, absolute silence descended. Ethan stopped walking. He stood directly outside the bathroom door, dripping water onto the blood trail of his victims. He waited patiently for the inevitable. The revenge was complete. Ethan stood directly outside the bathroom door, dripping water onto the marble floor, patiently waiting for the inevitable. The muffled sounds of Sam's drowning ceased. Silence returned, heavy and absolute, confirming the second execution. Alex stood alone in the devastated living room, staring at the closed bathroom door. His breath came in shallow, ragged gasps. The luxury house, their fortress of cruelty, had become a slaughterhouse, consumed by the cold vengeance of the lake. Survival instincts, cold and sharp, finally took over the shock. Alex abandoned the wreckage and sprinted toward his leather travel bag, ripping the zipper open. He retrieved the only true defense he possessed, a heavy, black handgun, secured beneath a pile of expensive clothing. The weight of the cold steel was a deceptive anchor to reality. He spun back toward the hallway, raising the firearm with trembling hands. Ethan had moved. He was standing motionless in the archway connecting the living room to the hallway, his soaking figure framed by the vast, dark expanse of the house. He was dripping water onto the pristine wood, his wide, dark eyes fixed on Alex with terrible, unending patience. Alex screamed, a raw, guttural sound of terror and defiance. He didn't issue a warning. He leveled the gun and fired. Bang! 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 3 shots thundered through the enormous room, the concussion deafening. Alex aimed directly for the chest, the center mass. The bullets hit Ethan with a sickening, wet thud, thud, thud. There was no resistance, no impact recoil, and no splatter of blood. The heavy lead rounds passed straight through the waterlogged body, as if Ethan were made of liquid. The exit wounds on Ethan's back, visible through his soaking sweater, didn't bleed. Instead, dark lake water, cold, stagnant, and thick with silt, instantly flowed out from the holes where the bullets had passed. The water streamed down his back and pooled on the floor, quickly absorbing the gunshot residue. Ethan did not fall. He did not flinch. Alex stared, the smoking gun dropping uselessly from his hand, the reality of the creature shattering his last shred of sanity. He was not fighting a victim. He was fighting an elemental force. The entity smiled, the wide, terrifying, water-filled smile, and took a slow, deliberate step forward. Ethan died screaming your names. The terrifying, gurgling voice spoke, the sound now stronger, colder, and resonating with the immense pressure of the deep lake. He sank fast. The debt is paid. The devastating truth was revealed. The body standing before him was not Ethan, the victim. It was a water wraith, a cold, malicious entity wearing the borrowed, violated skin of the boy they had drowned. Ethan is dead, the voice gurgled, its terrible smile widening further. But the lake kept the cruelest piece of him alive. The water wants payment, Alex. Alex stood paralyzed, the useless gun dropping from his numb fingers. He stared at the water wraith, the borrowed face of his victim, the terrifying knowledge of its elemental nature crushing him. The wraith did not rush. It moved with the slow, deliberate certainty of a god enacting vengeance. It walked past the bullet holes in its chest, the dark water streaming down its front. It stopped 2 feet in front of Alex, its huge, dark eyes fixed on him. Alex tried to scream, but the air caught in his throat. The wraith simply breathed. A sudden, cold, overwhelming mist, the essence of the stagnant deep lake, erupted from the entity's stretched mouth, hitting Alex full in the face. The mist was thick, heavy, and intensely cold, carrying the sickening odor of deep silt and cold decay. Alex stumbled backward, his hands flying to his mouth and nose, trying to fight the invasive vapor. But the mist was immediately internalized. His lungs felt instantly violated, consumed by the cold, dense water of the lake. He gagged, his body convulsing as the sudden, impossible flood filled his chest. He screamed, a harsh, wet, bubbling sound of suffocation and absolute terror. His hands tore uselessly at his chest, trying to stop the terrible, internal flood.
The wraith watched him fall, its terrifying wide smile fixed and absolute. The payment was being extracted. Alex struggled for a desperate, agonizing minute, the sound of his internal drowning echoing horribly in the large, silent room. He finally lay still, his wide eyes staring blankly at the ceiling, now filled with the murky terror of the lake he had used to discard his friend. The wraith stood over the body of its final victim. It paused for a long, cold moment, then turned slowly and walked back toward the mudroom door, leaving a thick trail of dark water behind it. The heavy door groaned open, and the wraith melted back into the vast, indifferent darkness of the night. The morning arrived, cold and quiet. The sun, bright and relentless, poured into the ruined rental house. Police and forensics, arriving after checking the previous night's frantic calls, found 3 bodies. Ryan, Sam, and Alex. All were clinically drowned, their lungs filled with cold, clear lake water, though the house was now bone dry. The medical examiner could offer no conventional explanation for the internal drowning. The house bore the scars of chaos: overturned furniture, shattered glass, and the thick, indelible water stains on the marble. But they found no assailant, they found no weapon, and they found no sign of the water wraith. The police did find something disturbing: a clear, distinct trail of wet, size 10 footprints leading from the back door, across the lawn, and down the gravel path, stopping only at the very edge of Mirror Lake. The footprints belonged to Ethan. The vast lake, calm and beautiful in the morning light, offered no answers, only a cold, profound silence. The official report would be filed as an unexplainable tragedy, but the local legend, fueled by the 3 drowned bodies and the story of the vanished victim, grew instantly. The lake had been abused, and it had demanded its price. They thought it was just a prank. Tell me in the comments, what is your biggest fear involving the ocean or lakes? If you want to hear more stories from the dark water, subscribe now.